He didn't have to stop. Nobody would have noticed. Nobody would have written about it. Nobody would have added it to the highlight reel or the stat line or the list of reasons why this season has felt different from every season that came before it. The Dodgers had just won. The clubhouse was waiting. The noise of celebration was already building somewhere down that hallway, getting louder with every step. He could have kept walking. He didn't. And in the 10 minutes that followed, in a hallway that smelled like concrete and fresh paint and the end of a long baseball night, Shohei Ohtani did something that had nothing to do with winning. Something that had nothing to do with statistics or standings or the kind of excellence that analysts spend hours trying to measure. He stopped for a family. Not his own. Clayton Kershaw is not a small name in this sport. Say it in any clubhouse, in any city, in any country where baseball is taken seriously, and the room changes slightly. The posture straightens. The tone shifts. Because Kershaw is the kind of player who arrived in this league and immediately made it clear that he intended to be here for a long time, on his own terms, playing the game the way it was meant to be played. 3 Cy Young Awards. 1 MVP. A career that stretched across more than 15 years and touched nearly every meaningful record a starting pitcher can reach. A man who threw the ball with the kind of precision and intent that made opposing lineups feel like they were solving a problem they hadn't studied for. But on this night, Kershaw was not on the mound. He was in that hallway. Standing with his wife and his children, waiting the way families wait after games, with the particular patience of people who have done this hundreds of times and understand that baseball nights end slowly. His kids were with him. Young. Still carrying the energy that children carry even late into the evening when adults have long since run out of it. They were waiting for their father. Waiting for the night to wind down. Waiting for the walk to the car and the drive home and the particular quiet that follows a baseball game when you're a family that lives inside this world. And then the hallway changed. Ohtani came around the corner. Still in uniform. The way he always looks after a game, not disheveled, not visibly tired, but carrying the full weight of 9 innings in the way that only players who gave everything actually do. Walking with the kind of unhurried pace that belongs to someone who has already done what he came to do and isn't performing for anyone. He saw the family. And he stopped. What happened next was not orchestrated. It was not arranged by a publicist or suggested by a teammate or designed to be photographed. It was simply a man who saw a family standing in a hallway and made a choice that most people, even most great people, would not have made after a full game on a long road trip in the middle of a pennant race. He walked toward them. He didn't approach from a height. That is the detail that the people who were there keep coming back to. That is the detail that Kershaw's wife mentioned when she spoke about it afterward, her voice carrying something quiet and genuine that is difficult to manufacture. He didn't stand above the children and extend a hand or offer a smile from a distance. He didn't treat them like a brief obligation between one place and the next. He crouched down. Eye level. The way you do when you actually want to talk to someone small. The way parents do when they want a child to feel like the conversation belongs to them equally. He got down to where the children were, and he looked at them directly, and he spoke to them the way adults rarely speak to children they have just met, as if what they had to say mattered. As if their questions were worth taking seriously. As if this hallway, right now, was exactly where he intended to be. The children, who had been leaning into their mother the way children lean when they're uncertain, slowly straightened up. Something shifted in that hallway. Kershaw's wife watched all of it. She has been part of this world long enough to know what genuine looks like and what performance looks like. She has stood in enough hallways and enough clubhouses and enough post-game gatherings to understand the difference between a player who is being gracious because someone is watching and a player who is being gracious because that is simply who he is. This was the second kind. She said afterward that what struck her wasn't just the gesture itself. It was the quality of it. The way Ohtani was completely unhurried. The way he gave each child the full weight of his attention, not divided, not distracted, not half present while the other half of him was already thinking about the next thing. He was there. Entirely. In that hallway. With those kids. For those minutes. She said it was the kind of thing you want your children to remember. Not baseball. Not the home runs or the strikeouts or the name on the back of the jersey. But the moment when one of the most famous athletes on the planet got down on one knee in a hallway and treated them like they were the most important people he had met all night. Then came the autographs. And again, it is the how that matters more than the what. Signing autographs is not a rare thing in this sport. Players sign before games and after games and sometimes during games when the situation allows. It is part of the profession. Part of the contract that exists between the people who play and the people who watch. Most players handle it professionally. Some handle it warmly. A few handle it with the kind of patience and attention that turns a routine moment into something the person on the other end of the pen never forgets. Ohtani handled it like time was not a factor. He didn't rush through the signatures the way you rush through something you're obligated to do. He didn't produce a mechanical scrawl that could have belonged to anyone. He was deliberate. He paused between each one. He handed each item back with both hands, the way you hand something back when you understand that what you've just signed means more to the person receiving it than it does to you. Kershaw's children held their items carefully after. The way children hold things they know they are not supposed to drop. Kershaw himself was present for part of it. And there is something particular about standing next to a man who has just beaten your team, who has spent the last several hours on the opposite side of the field, competing against your organization, winning, and watching him treat your family with that kind of care. Baseball is a competitive sport played by competitive men who understand that the line between opponent and colleague is real and important. There is respect across that line. There is professionalism. But genuine warmth is rarer. The kind of warmth that doesn't require a shared history or a shared uniform, the kind that simply shows up because the person carrying it cannot help but bring it wherever they go. Kershaw, who has seen a great deal in this sport, who has played alongside legends and competed against legends and built his own legacy over 15 years of extraordinary pitching, stood in that hallway and watched Ohtani with his children. And he was moved. Not as a competitor. Not as a former teammate. As a father. As a man watching another man choose, freely and without any audience demanding it, to give his family something that money and statistics cannot provide. The Dodgers' victory will be recorded. The winning streak will be noted. The season will continue its long arc toward October, and the games will pile up, and the numbers will grow, and eventually everything that happened on the field that night will be absorbed into the larger story of how this team performed and what they built and whether it was enough. None of that will appear in any record book. Not the hallway. Not crouching down. Not the unhurried autographs passed back with both hands. Not the expression on a child's face when someone enormous makes them feel seen. That version of the night has no box score. But it is the version that Kershaw's family will carry home. The version that his children will describe to their friends. The version that his wife will think about on an ordinary Tuesday years from now when she is trying to explain to someone what it actually means to be a great person, not just a great player. There are athletes who are defined entirely by what they do between the lines. And there are athletes who are defined by what they do when the lines no longer matter. Shohei Ohtani, in a hallway after a win, crouched down to eye level with children who were not his own, spoke to them with full attention, and signed his name slowly and deliberately on items they will keep for the rest of their lives. The game was already over. He was already great. He chose to be something more.